Everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Upsun Unleashed, Transforming Application Deployments for Agency Success. I want to thank you all very much for taking the time to join us today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jonas Johansson, and I'm the head of Agency Acquisition and Growth here at Platform.sh, currently based in the deserts of Las Vegas. And for today's webinar, we're excited to dive into our new offering, Upsun. And so to help guide us through this journey, I'm excited to introduce today's speaker, Augustin Delaporte, VP of Product Management and employee number 4 here at Platform. So let's get started. And Augustin, it's over to you.
Thanks, Jonas. Can you all hear me well? Sound is okay? Hi, everyone. Yeah, let's dive into the topic as Jonas is saying. We've launched Upsun 6 months ago now. I wanted to give a lot of context about why we decided to launch this offering. What was the rationale for launching a new offering next to Platform.sh, how it works in detail, and what are all the new capabilities that actually are made possible thanks to a different pricing model, as you might know already. So Upsun is really a new offer from Platform.sh. It's not a new underlying infrastructure. We are really reusing the same components, the same underlying components to build Upsun. It's really the way that we package the APIs that makes Upsun very different. And the goal for us is to allow for much more flexibility, much more control on how you build your applications and how you deploy your websites, basically. In the past, when we started with Platform.sh, there were a lot of features, new enhancements that we could not build because of the Platform.sh constraints that you might be familiar with. Platform.sh is a plan-based offering. So you start with a plan that's standard, medium, large. And that plan gives you a pool of resources that are distributed amongst the containers and services that you are running. Those plans are making a lot of assumptions on how we assumed in the past how you were deploying your applications. For example, development environments should only be used for development, and they cannot have a custom domain, for example. You have to also purchase packs of 3 development environments. Those development environments are very small. They cannot be used for load testing before going to production because the resources that we allocate to those development environments are very minimal. The default resource allocations works in a lot of cases, but not all of the use cases. So for example, if you were running a large Java applications, the memory resource were actually very limiting. So you could not run, even though we support the image to run Java, there were a lot of things you could not do on Platform.sh because of those resource allocation constraints. The plans also were limiting the number of services and applications that you could run or deploy on Platform.sh. And for example, if you wanted to have a bit more resources for your database, you had to basically upsize your plan and double the cost for your projects, right? Which was not always an option for many of our users. So over the years, to work around those limitations, we did implement specific, let's call them hacks, if we want, that you may be familiar with. For example, we introduced the disk key or the resources key in YAML file. But those keys, if you set more resources, for example, in your applications, they were shared with all the environments, which was not forcefully what you wanted if you only needed more resources to your production. We also introduced new SKUs for large development application or large development service size for your development environments to be bigger. But again, they didn't forcefully match what was in production. And a lot of features that we wanted to offer, like observability features, for example, we had to bundle them in what we call the observability suite bundle, which meant that you had to pay a lot of money for features that you potentially didn't need. If you needed only a single feature as part of this bundle, you had to buy the entire bundle. So based on all the feedback that we received over the year, we really wanted to completely rethink how those plans were working and how you're using our platform. And we wanted to support much more a wider range of use cases. I talked about Java, but we have all the range of static websites which don't consume a lot of resources during the run, but they potentially need much more resources to build. If you think about Jamstack architecture, for example. So in the end, the idea of providing more flexibility, like allowing you to freely allocate the resources and distribute them across all your containers and services, is the main reason why we decided to build Upsun and package our solution with a different pricing and billing model. And during this webinar, we'll actually see all of the new features that are made possible and that are available today already on Upsun. The first one I want to talk about is if you have an organization on Platform.sh, you can also create an organization on Upsun, and you will be able to navigate freely between your Upsun organizations and Platform.sh organizations. You don't need to like access different console. You will be automatically redirected, and in your organization navigation menu, you will be able to freely navigate between both. And you'll have a small logo that tells you whether one organization is an Upsun-based organization versus a Platform.sh organization. So that's a new improvements we've made recently. The second thing is when we talk about the Upsun pricing model, people might be scared about what they think about usage-based billing. Upsun is not forcefully usage-based billing. It's what we call allocation-based billing, in a sense that you're allocating resources upfront and you know how much is going to cost at the end of the month, because our API, our estimates API, is going to tell you if you upsize your PHP application and grant it 2 or 4 CPUs, we know that at the end of the month, you cannot go over those 4 CPUs. So it's not purely usage-based, it's really allocation-based. And our APIs will give you all the details about your upcoming invoice. There are some pricing dimensions that are going to be purely usage-based, and those ones are bandwidth, for example, because you have a number of requests that you can make and a bandwidth maximum that you can go over. And if you actually go over, you're going to be charged for those overage amounts. So some pricing dimensions are actually usage-based, but most of the pricing will come from an allocation-based pricing. So you have a lot of predictability in how much you're going to end up paying at the end of the month. We also have billing alerts. You can set a threshold which tells you, send me an email reminder every time, every day. Actually, we're saying it every day, if my estimated invoice is over a certain limit. So if you set one here as the example, 1.2K, if the estimate, because you have someone in your team that has allocated more resources to their production environment, you can actually receive an alert and quickly correct the course of action if you don't want to go over that limit, right? So we have some mechanism in place to actually provide much more predictability in the pricing of your upcoming invoices. We also have a public pricing calculator that you can use. It's on upsun.com/pricing/calculator with all the pricing dimensions. And you can quickly estimate, based on the number of preview environments you have, based on the number of applications and services you're running, you can predict the cost that Upsun is going to cost at the end of the month. And we support multi-currencies, and we have all the pricing dimensions available for you to estimate your monthly costs. When I talked about the observability features that we currently package on Platform.sh under the observability suite, we are now offering them as standalone features. So you can, or I mean, you don't have to, but you can use any of the features available. And I'm going to go through the entire list. You can go through any of the observability features that are available on the observability suite on Platform.sh independently on Upsun. And you're going to be billed by the usage that you're making. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Blackfire continuous profiling. The idea is that the continuous profiler is going to do periodic capture of data at a specific interval that you define, let's say every 5 minutes, and gather a lot of information about all the functions and services that are triggered by the requests that go to your website. And then you can monitor and see what happened and identify very quickly the threshold and the bottlenecks on your code, basically. So that's continuous profiling, and it's available independently on Upsun. Same for the APM. So we have the Blackfire APM, like profiling, alerting, monitoring, health reports, and everything. So APM, when you run a profiler, for example, with Blackfire, it will take a very in-depth screenshot of all the actions and comments and functions that have been triggered by every specific API request. And you can also run a very deep debugging thanks to the profiler. And again, you don't have to use it, but it's available, and you're going to be charged based on the usage that you do of those features. Logs forwarding is also a good example. If you have a third-party provider where you're gathering all your logs, all your facts on your applications, you can easily connect those third-party providers and send all the logs, all the data, all the events to those third-party, and you're only going to be charged by the bandwidth that those logs are going to use, right? So if you don't use logs forwarding, you're not going to be billed for logs forwarding, but if you decide or want to use that specific feature, you can on Upsun independently. And we integrate with the major providers, and every logs that are sent to syslog are going to also be sent to your provider. So you can integrate with pretty much any solution that is available on the market. Automated backups. So this one is interesting. On Platform.sh, there is a scalable that you might not know about, or maybe you know about it, which allows you to have daily backups. And depending on your tier, so Platform.sh has tiers like professional, enterprise, and elite. Depending on your tier, you will be able to have hourly backups for your production site or daily backups for your production site. What we have on Upsun is completely different because you can customize the retention and the schedule on all your environments. So if you don't want to back up your staging or development environments, then you don't need to, right? So it's really, and you're only going to be built on the storage of those backups. So you decide whether you want hourly for your production, daily, and how long you want to retain those backups, which is important for a lot of compliance frameworks. They require very specific retention policies for your backup, for example. And that's very important for you to have that control, that level of control, instead of relying on our two quite limited scallables that are on Platform.sh. So here you have full control on the retention and the scheduling of the backups, and also on which environments you're actually running those backups. As your agency, as agencies, often on Platform.sh, you are maintaining multiple organizations because you have one organization that has the high SLA project where you have support SLAs and uptime SLAs that are specific to the large projects that you're potentially running. And you have other organizations, either for each of your customers, if you want to invoice them directly, or for lower tier or less critical projects. On Upsun, you can group all your projects in a single organization for your agency, and you will be able to set specific SLAs based on the projects that are in, right? So it's not attached to the entire organization, it's going to be attached per project. So much more control in how you want to navigate and manage all your projects, your contributors, your teams, and the different SLA levels that you want for each of your projects within that single organization. So also major improvements compared to how you're currently navigating on Platform.sh. MFA. Today, enforcing MFA across an entire organization is only available to enterprise and elite organizations. On Platform.sh, on Upsun, there is a scalable that says that's for user management, and that will allow you to enforce MFA across your entire organization. So every contributor that is going to access a resource that you manage on Upsun is going to be required to enable MFA on their account in order to be able to access that resource. And you can check who in your team has enabled MFA or not. And you can also remind them, hey, you have not enabled MFA. Please do so if you want to access my project or the settings of my organization or logging in via SSH to a project or anything. Workers. I know that many of our agency partners are relying on workers. One of the main improvements we have on Upsun compared to Platform.sh is on Platform.sh, if you set up a worker, it's going to consume the resources of the application, right? So you cannot have more or less, you cannot allocate more or less resources to your worker without impacting the actual application. On Upsun, it's completely different. Each worker will have its own set of resources. And that means that you can run large batch of imports, for example. If you have periodic batch or periodic actions you're running for importing or synchronizing files, for example, you'll be able to do that and spin up a worker with specific set of resources. You can give him multiple instances, for example. If you want to have horizontal scaling, you can give it a lot of resources, run your batch, and then kill that worker without impacting your production site and your Python or PHP or whatever application. So that's also major improvements compared to how you're using workers on Platform.sh because of the constraints that the Platform.sh plan has and that you don't have on Upsun now. Teams, same thing. Teams is only available on Platform.sh for enterprise and elite organizations. You have Teams with the user management scalable directly on Upsun to manage your contributors efficiently. So onboarding and offboarding new contributors is actually very easy because you simply remove someone from a team and they will lose access to all the projects that this team has access to. And you can also change the permission that a team has on all the projects, and it will automatically cascade all the permissions down to all the projects. And you can do that per environment as well. Preview environment domains, same thing. If you want your preview environments to have your own domain so that you can send it to your customer and say, hey, can you test on staging, or have specific wildcard so that all your domains are under your agency domain, for example, you can do that because development domains can accept custom, development environments accept custom domains. So you can set that for any of your preview environment, basically. Configurable build resources. You might have seen the limitation on Platform.sh where the build resources that we provide by default are not sufficient to generate your assets, for example, or build your static sites. On Upsun, you decide how much you want to allocate to your build container. So if you have needs for big process during the build, you can actually allocate more resources to your build containers so that you will be able to run all your workflows directly in the build and then have small set of resources during your runtime, right? So that's very efficient for all the static websites or Jamstack architecture. The per container resource allocation is really, it summarizes how Upsun works basically. So on Upsun, you define per application how much CPU and RAM each application or each service is going to get. So you can have a database with a high memory, high CPU, while your applications remain quite small. And Upsun supports horizontal and vertical scaling. So you can, as I said, you can scale up or down, either horizontally by adding new instances or vertically by giving it more resources. And we are working on implementing some automated mechanisms to automatically scale up an application if our monitoring infrastructure detects that there is too few resources or too much constraints on your applications, right? This is not there yet, and we're still in the testing phase, but soon you'll be able to automatically decide, okay, I want to scale when the number of network errors reach a certain threshold or when my CPU is actually above a certain threshold. So you'll be able to decide what are the thresholds when you want to scale up or actually scale down. Something that we're working on at the moment is what we call guaranteed resources. So we want to allow you to allocate high performance CPU directly on the grid instead of those shared CPUs that you're getting today. And those are for highly compliant or highly critical websites that need those kind of specification. So also we are in the building phase for that feature, but we will have that on Upsun as soon as it launches. Multi-versions deployment. So also a feature that we are implementing at the moment that will be available on Upsun soon is the ability to be able to use different strategies to deploy your application. One strategy that everybody knows about is the blue-green. So basically we are spinning up a new application and then we're routing the traffic once that application has fully launched. But there are many different deployment strategy like canary deployment, rolling deployments. All those strategies will be available directly on Upsun. And because you're actually charged for all the resources that you consume, you can actually decide and be very flexible in the way that you want to deploy all your applications.